I'm Lidan You from Queen's University, Department of Mechanical and Materials Engineering. So my research focuses on musculoskeletal biomechanics, mechanobiology, but more specifically at the cellular level. So we're looking at how mechanical loading affects bone structure, bone remodeling rate, and how that will, in the end, help us to prevent diseases, bone disorders, or bone disease treatment. Oh, that's a long story, but I'll just keep it brief. So I remember when I was a college student at the fourth year, when I was considering my thesis, I have a professor taught us solid mechanics and also, fluid mechanics. And he approached me asking me whether I'm interested in doing thesis with him. The topic will be bone biomechanics. And that time, my understanding about bone is really just it's a piece of a solid material. And so I told him that I'm more interested in fluid mechanics. So my intent is to decline. But then he told me that, no, you have totally wrong understanding of a bone biomechanics. There's actually a lot of fluid in the bone matrix. And so he said that if you're interested in fluid mechanics, this is the field. And I'm pretty sure you will get, very interested in this. So that's the starting point of my, bone biomechanics research. Yeah. Currently, we're working on cancer bone metastasis, specifically breast cancer bone metastasis and prostate cancer bone metastasis, but more in the context of how mechanical load can prevent or treat this kind of cancer bone metastasis. As you may already know that there's many breast cancer patients, prostate cancer patients, when this at the advanced stage, they suffer from metastasis. So we're trying to figure out a best way to help those patients to gain the benefit from exercise, to trying to figure out how to better prevent and treat this kind of bone cancer bone metastasis. Certainly, there's many challenges. Scientifically, I found that working in a niche area, for my specific case, cancer bone metastasis, it could be challenging, especially when we just started, because it's definitely unconventional and it's underfunded. And it's very hard to convince the reviewers, funding agencies. So at the beginnings, it's really hard to get funded actually. So, and also even publications, because you have to convince the reviewers, right? So it is very challenging, but I guess perseverance pays off in the end if you insist, if you keep trying. So that's the challenge to work in a niche area. You just need to be patient, need to be perseverance. And career-wise, I found that at the beginning to identify, to establish my own identity, it's very challenging. I remember when I just started my career, I was constantly compared with my mentor, PhD mentor, postdoc mentor, and I need to establish my own identity, establish my own brand, basically. So it is quite challenging for me, and took me many years to really to try to not to separate, but at the same time just to establish my own, brand, basically. Yeah. Socially, I guess it's the old topic, right? So it's balancing between the personal life and the career. That's yeah, it's always challenge. I think that's challenge for everyone. That's an excellent question. So what we're working right now is we establish our own cancer bone metastasis on chip system. it works really well, allow us to test many hypotheses, trying to understand the mechanism. But for now, I think our system, even though it's much complex compared to the previously developed system or the 2D conventional in vitro system, however, I think it's still, there's a lot of room to grow. So there's a lot of room for improvement. So in the future, I would like to integrate more factors. For example, integrate immune system, integrate other manufacture, for example, bone marrow stromal cells, T cells, monocytes into our system, and also perhaps also try to build, I was hoping, right? So build kind of like a body on chip system instead of organ on chip, so that we can more systematically looking at the cancer bone metastasis from kind of like a primary tumor site to the secondary tumor site. Yeah. So I think certainly there's going to be superstars, and there's starting with tons of funding and never experience any difficulties. But for most people I know, when they just started their careers, there's going to be time, a lot of times, a lot of difficult times. So I think realizing and accepting that there's going to be a lot of setbacks, I think that's important. Otherwise, you'll be so surprised and then so disappointed on yourself. But you just have to realize that's kind of a norm. And you just have to, being hanging there and just keep trying. Setbacks is inevitable, I think, for most of the people. But if you perseverance in the end will pay off. Yeah. And also, I think back to the topic of of the balance between the career and the life. I was at the beginning, I was hoping to, I was trying my best to achieve the balance, but I found it's very hard. And later on, I realized it's it's a dynamic process. It's not a static concept. So it's more like a pendulum, right? So it's very hard to have the perfect balance at all time points. So it's not static. So sometimes you will be more focused on your career development, more focused on work, but then just don't forget, you have to, don't forget about the other side. And then maybe sometime later, you kind of swing back and swing to the personal life, and then invest efforts, time to maintain the good health, healthy relationship with your family. But then maybe later on you swing back again. So it's really a dynamic process. But to achieve perfect balance at all time, I think that's almost like a dream. It's very hard. So yeah, that's my advice. That's again excellent question. So I started, ORS is actually one of the, it's actually my first conference in my career I attended. And I remember I was extremely lucky that my first presentation in my whole career is a ORS presentation. It was a podium presentation. I'm extremely nervous, but then later on I just gained so much in terms of getting all this very helpful feedbacks, connecting with my peers. And so since then, I think that's back to almost 30 years ago. And then I continually connecting with my colleagues, with my peers. And one of the actually several of the very important collaborations I had with many colleagues in US and in UK, in Australia. So they are actually from ORS. So sometimes either myself or my students present poster or podium presentations, and then people approached me asking, about our device, our protocol and ideas, and then we started collaboration. So I really appreciate that ORS provide this platform for us so that we can share our results, sharing our thoughts on certain exciting research direction and form very meaningful collaborations. At the very beginning of my career, I was very cautious and I tried to, because publication is so important, so I try to pick the one I'm more comfortable with the direction wise, right? So I stay in my comfort zone and trying to uh, establish myself in terms of publication and get experiments going as quickly as possible. But deep in my mind, I have some very new directions I would like to explore, but I kind of waited because I don't want to risk. But looking back, I feel like maybe I waited a little bit too long. So I wish I can started my, back to that time, new directions earlier. So but at the same time, I feel like all this setbacks, the failing in fundings and all these difficulties, that's how it shaped my career path. So I don't regret what I have been going through, but if I have to choose, that may be the same. That may be something I would like to do differently. Yeah. I guess at my early stage, career-wise, uh, the first publications, first funding, exciting positive result, and that is the most memorable, most exciting moment. But later on, I think it's more and more about my trainees. Like when I see my students being successful, when my students got their first publications, got award, paper award, poster award, best presentation award, and if they got their first job offer. So that is the most exciting moment for me now.